You probably underestimate greatly the sheer importance of having strong social relationships in your life. And I know that because I've experienced the bad end of it myself. I know what it's like to subscribe to that horrible idea of being a sort of lone wolf kind of thing where you retreat from society and cut off ties with friends and neglect your family, all because you think it's somehow powerful to retreat from society like that and grind in the dark, as they say. And maybe there's a good intention to that, but I want to argue that that's actually really harmful. It's really harmful, even if there is a honest and ambitious intention behind that. Because you see that idea nowadays a lot. The lone wolf, the I don't need friends, I don't need family, I don't need anyone to love me, I don't need a girlfriend, I don't need a wife, I'm just gonna retreat and go my own way and pursue what I want selfishly almost. And even if there's good thinking behind that, in that I want to improve myself, it's harmful. And we've seen the bad effects of loneliness and poor social relationships at a very surface level, despite the great advancement in technology that connects us. We're more lonely than ever. And especially for lots of young men, they really don't have anyone in their life they can look up to and connect with on a deeper level. They stick to just boring conversations. They don't connect. They don't feel, even with people around them, they don't feel part of it. And that's something that we can all sort of relate to in the modern age. And this video is the third part of the Renaissance Man series. It's that important aspect of our life that we have to cultivate, which is a good social life, because we absolutely need it. It's critical. And I want to offer you some advice that maybe if you're feeling lost and you don't know how to create those meaningful connections, and it's hard, I know, but I found that some things have helped me and some things have turned me away from that loner mindset, which is actually really horrible. It literally kills you to be lonely. I think research has found that for whatever reason, we're not quite sure yet, but people who don't have strong social connections just die earlier. And it makes sense. It makes sense if you go back to it from an evolutionary perspective. So first, let's slow down and say, why do we need strong social relationships? Why do we have to connect with our friends and family and people we love on a romantic level? Well, for what reason? You can imagine, first, it's from a health perspective. Why, from a health perspective, do we do this? Well, you can imagine going back in time into the era of tribes and hunter-gatherers. Well, they relied on each other, literally to live and to not die. If you were expelled from the tribe for whatever reason, if you lost everyone else, you were done for. You would feel that horrible rejection and loneliness because you were literally about to die. You were going to starve. There's no hope for you unless you reconnect and find some sort of structure to your social system. And that idea just translates to now. When we isolate ourselves from people, we feel almost drifting, lonely, and there's no people to regulate our emotions. There's no one to express ourselves to. And we become very just depressed and meaningless. And we need that connection just for our sanity, almost for our physical our social fulfillment, and just to be happy people. And a lot of us are used to the baseline of loneliness because, of course, it's hard in the modern world to create those meaningful relationships. And we need them. We need people we can rely upon, people we can connect to on a deep spiritual level. The idea of brotherhood, we need that in our lives because it's, in many ways, it's forgotten. It's like, what does it mean? What does true brotherhood even mean anymore? What did the brotherhood of Achilles and Patroclus mean? We read that and we can't embody it. We, we can't relate to it ourselves because it's such a long lost idea. And you've seen men's spheres; they're doing that a lot nowadays. And it's, of course, it's not a men's problem per se. it's a wider, deeper problem in all of society. We just lack those meaningful relationships that are so important for our social life and our health. We go crazy without it. And hopefully I can offer some tips on how to where to find those things, because they are around you. They really are. And it's, especially if you've been lonely for your whole life, it's hard to get in there and seek that. It's challenging. I know that because I've experienced it myself. It's scary and it's intimidating, and you feel like the world is looking at you and there's loads of judgment, and that causes pain, and I understand that. But in reality, it's better than you think. The world is better than you think, and especially if you spend too much time on the internet, it can paint a bleak picture. But the world is good, and the people out there are good, and they're just waiting to be found. And that's the important thing. On a deeper level, as a Renaissance man, and as we focus on this third aspect, social life, we can draw a sort of deeper, indescribable spiritual fulfillment from it by serving our community. When we serve the others around us, when we give what we have to offer, when we make people's lives better, when we see their smiles light up the room because of something we said, it's an indescribable joy that flows through us. It's a gift to give rather than receive, and you know that when you do it. You know that when you fulfill that small role in a small community. It doesn't have to be much, but you really feel that sense of, I am part of something bigger here and I am happy to give. And I think we all need that. We all need to live for others in a way. And that's a very strong Christian idea as well. We need to sacrifice a part of ourselves to see others thrive as well. And that's not flagellation, but we just want to see them grow and develop and feel special in themselves, because then, well, if everyone does that, the world's a better place, simple as. We share that joy and we're always uplifting each other and doing all these things for the betterment of the people around us. It starts with you, it starts with your family, and then it grows wider and wider, and suddenly you have a strong community that is resilient to all suffering, and they can rely on each other. And that's also an idea we've sort of lost. It's rare nowadays. We're distant from our neighbors. We have these big cosmopolitan living conditions where we're just in a sea of people that we don't know, and that makes sense. It's too many, but within that we have to find pockets of people we can connect to and rely upon for our health, for our wider sense of purpose, and just for a deeper fulfillment we can't find from anything else. No career or hedonism or anything like that. A deeper sense of spiritual fulfillment can be found from a good social life. So with all that said, how can we achieve this? How can we actually translate this into actionable steps that you can use to go out there and not only find some good relationships, but build them and actively nourish and cultivate them into something meaningful? Well, I think the first step is to look into yourself. You should first look in the mirror and not look outwards, but reflect on who you are and what you are. Are you a good friend? Are you a good lover? Are you a good son, husband, mother, daughter, anything? Are you doing what you could be doing for the betterment of others? Are you someone who is nice to be around? Are you neurotic? Are you patronizing? Are you obnoxious? Or are you loving and generous and strict in the good sense with others? Are you someone that actively uplifts people and someone who pushes them to be better, even if it's a bit harsh in the moment? Are you someone that benefits the lives of others? And that sounds very utilitarian, but we're there for others, not only to make them feel special, which is fine in its own right, in the right context, but we're also there to push each other up, to keep each other accountable. The communion of saints is called in the Christian philosophy, and that's what we want to do. We want to look into ourselves and our values and our flaws and sort through them, articulate them, arrange them to ourselves. Be very self-aware, essentially, because it's okay to have flaws in our character. It's inevitable. We all do, but we have to actively focus on them and be aware so that we can either improve it or try and work on it so we can be a better person in the eyes of others for their sake and for our own sake, so we can be more comfortable with who we are and more comfortable with who they are. And part of being someone who is welcomed in a social situation, is we want to be able to speak to them, and we want people to be comfortable around us. And to many of you, this will sound obvious. It's like, well, yeah, of course, we don't want to be weird and unapproachable. But at the same time, there's so many guys out there I know, and including myself in the past, where we were just weird. We just didn't know how to interact with people. We didn't know how to strike a conversation. We didn't know how to maintain it, and it was just awkward and robotic and sort of the sign of someone who's been on the internet too long and has forgotten how to do these things. And so for many of us, it's reasonable to slow down and start from the basics and kind of fix our brains, because it's that bad sometimes. We want to be able to go out there and just be normal and to be socialized into what is considered a functional society. We want to be able to talk and make them feel special through conversation, ask them questions, feel interested in who they are and what they have to offer as a person. Share your insights, learn from them, let them communicate their problems to you, their successes, their failures, and you want to be able to sympathize with that and make them feel valued. That's really what it boils down to, making them feel valued and uplifting them to greater heights. Being that person that everyone can see and think, I like him, I want to talk to him, I want to say hello. Just being open and friendly, even if you're introverted, because you don't have to be the one who's going around being loud and sort of welcoming to everyone. You can be quiet and still respected and have your place in that community that everyone can look forward to and trust, and be open and willing to share their stories to you. And that takes time and effort to build those sort of relationships, but we can all do it. And practice really is one of the key parts of that. You need to be able to practice talking to people of all walks of life, talk to them about anything. A nice exercise you can do is just go to coffee shops and charity shops and wherever on the street and just strike a small conversation. And if you keep doing that, you can suddenly get more used to it, because like anything, it's a skill. You can become better at talking, better at conversing in a back and forth, making them feel valued, and at the same time just being comfortable doing that and feeling at rest, at ease, because that was a given for our grandparents' generation. It wasn't hard, but for us now it can be difficult. And of course, I said earlier we should serve our community. How do we do that? Where might you look for that? Well, there's several good places I recommend that for me have helped me find an outlet for being part of something bigger than myself and offering my time, energy, money, whatever it be, for something more valuable and that can be potentially life changing for some people. Where people come together and they find new friends, potentially lovers, people that they can rely upon, people, opportunities, new opportunities for their life, their career, everything. So where can you start? I would recommend volunteering first, because when you volunteer for something, maybe something you're interested in, maybe for a museum if you're into history, maybe you're sick of the homelessness epidemic in your city and you can help out at a local soup kitchen or something. Or, for example, I did some volunteering at a countryside management scheme once where we built a bridge in a walkway in a park. And that was really valuable because there were people there who cared about the land, people who had so much wisdom and experience to share that was so insightful to talk to them. And otherwise, you would never have met them if you didn't do that. And aside from keeping you a bit fit from carrying all the stuff, it was you learned new skills, you talked to new people, and by the end of it, you had built a bridge. And somehow that was so rewarding. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that sort of thing where you step back and see the work you've done. Maybe it's physical or in the lives of others. You fed someone that day, and that's so rewarding. It's hard to articulate really, but you just feel like, okay, I've done something good for their life, and maybe they can carry that forward and amplify it. And maybe you helped be that catalyst, that spark for a new change. And there's nothing arrogant about that. It's just if you humbly approach a task and say, well, I want to try and do something good for someone today, that's a gift in itself. You can also, I recommend a local parish because a church, whether you're religious or not, is sort of the strongest bastion of community nowadays in society. It's where people come together to worship, yes, but also it's very community oriented, where you'll have events, you'll have lots of families that know each other, help each other, and you can maybe volunteer in these events to just help out and just spread that good message and that good energy around. And that I found that really helped because it was organized, you could volunteer easily. It was sort of it wasn't formal. You could just show up and have a good time, but also help and offer what you have to others. And I found that really valuable for me personally, so I would recommend the same. And another experience in the past was Scouts or Boy Scouts, wherever you are, America, UK, it doesn't matter. Some sort of boys group focused on nature and learning skills and survival camping, all that sort of thing. And that's really valuable because if you volunteer for that, you literally get to see, you get to teach kids who you can see yourself in their position in the past. You were that kid in the past, and maybe you needed a role model or someone to guide you through all the loneliness of life and the suffering and hardship, and you need that feeling of community and brotherhood and true friendship that you get at that age. And if you can oversee that and be an arbiter for good in that regard, that must be immensely fulfilling. I've never personally led any of that thing, but I've been in the Scouts and I've seen that that is something worth working for. Those critical stages of life where we're forming the deepest friendships we'll probably have for the rest of our life as kids. If you can somehow help that and offer that and be a part of that for the children, I'm sure that's one of the most fulfilling things you can do. To carry on the light and teach people what you've learned, your mistakes, and just let them grow up into someone who's well adjusted and balanced and has strong friendships, a good skill set, and all these amazing memories they'll treasure for the rest of their life. And that's in the Scouts, I think. Maybe it's declined recently, I don't know, but the point is, these are just specific examples that have helped me, but really you can find community anywhere. You can find them based on a shared interest. Maybe you love reading, maybe there's a book club near you. If you're in university, there'll be loads of societies and clubs centered around things you hopefully enjoy. And if you can go there and just show up, even if it's terrifying at first, even if you're alone, even if there's no one else to come with you, just show up and talk to people. And you might come across as a bit weird if you're not good at that. But everyone else is in your position. Everyone else is struggling for the exact same thing you are, and maybe it's hard for the first months, but you'll get used to it. And you will build those strong relationships over time. And like anything, you have to work for it, you have to practice, you have to nourish it, you have to take the initiative sometimes. But ultimately, it's in your hands, and you can't look at it from a defeatist point of view. There are people out there. There are people who will relate to you on a spiritual level. You just have to find them, damn it. They're out there. And so my call to action for you, my challenge, let's say, is if you're in a position where your social life is kind of in ruins, or not existent, or weak, then go out there and do something about it. Because we can. People will cherish you, and you definitely have something interesting to offer to the table. I'm certain of that. We all do. And by going out, we can not only learn from others, but maybe give them some insight and just be a good influence in someone's life and achieve fulfillment for that and make them feel valued for everything they've done. And they can tell you their story, you can learn from their mistakes, you can tell your own story, and there's something intrinsically important to that, so deeply as humans. We need a good social life. It's part of being a Renaissance man, which is where this all comes from, this idea. And it's not something we can abandon. If we abandon a good social life, we abandon it at our own peril. And one last thing, you'll see that I watched this video about elderly people, and the number one thing they treasured in the end, and maybe regretted, and the most valuable thing to them as they stood on their in their last final years of life, they said family and friends, relationships in general. And maybe we should learn from them. Maybe it's not the career, maybe it's nothing else that will fulfill us as much as having good links to our family, peace in our community, and just good friendships overall. And it's easier said than done, but maybe we should listen to the people who've lived, and most of them will say, cherish the time you have left with your family and friends, because when you're sitting at death's door, that's the one thing you'll cherish the most and regret if you haven't done it properly. So the call to action, go out there and make a good social life yourself. It'll take time, but you got it. Thank you.